Finally, we actually have some like real comments here about Rick and Daryl eventually reuniting, and I want to break down exactly what Norman Reedus said here because it is something that is really exciting, and it's actually like a response to, you know, the characters reuniting, and it's like a real comment about what's happening. So yeah, I'm excited about this. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 3 is going to be airing in like what, under a month now. I believe it's September 7th, and so yeah, like what is that, 26 days I think away. So if you want to get all my reviews, breakdowns, and all of that, then yeah, definitely make sure to be a subscriber. I also will be doing a review of the movie Weapons. I do want to talk about that movie because I actually just watched it, and it's a really incredible movie. I will just say, like, the movie really does, like, it does a lot for the horror genre, I will say, in terms of how original of a story it does feel like. And yeah, I'll get into my thoughts on the movie and all of that, I guess, in my review. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. I saw this in an article actually from Cinema Blend, and yeah, I guess Norman Reedus was talking with SFX, and well, it says SFX on Cinema Blend, and so anyways, he was asked about, you know, having Daryl and Rick reunite, and like, you know, is that going to happen at some point, or just basically, he was asked a question about, you know, reuniting with Rick Grimes, and so this is what he had to say here. I'm all for it. It just has to be done in the right way, and I know Andy feels the same way. We can't just make a show and get them all together somehow. It has to fit organically. To be honest, the characters aren't the same characters as when they were together. They're completely different. Daryl's relationship with Rick wouldn't be the exact same relationship they had 6 years ago. All these characters have evolved, and so I mean, first of all, I will say it's definitely been a lot more than 6 years. I think it's been like, what, 10 years or something since Daryl and Rick have actually seen each other, like in the show's timeline, because 6 years originally passed by from, you know, the ending of, I guess, when Rick left, and then obviously the big time jump there. So much time has passed since then, so it's been closer to about 10 years, I would say. I would say for sure now, at least 10 years for sure. So I do like what he is saying here, though. I think that is something that, you know, at least for me, like, I do want Rick and Daryl to actually reunite. I do want a story there, but it is one of those things where it's like, you do need to make it where, like, it does make a lot of sense, and there needs to be, like, problems and issues there, right? Like, between the characters where something comes up. Like, I look at Rick and Michonne, for example, and when they reunited, like, it wasn't just as simple as Rick and Michonne, like, they see each other, they reunite, everything's really good, right? Like, the issue that came up right away was that Rick couldn't leave the CRM. And so right away, he's trying to tell Michonne to leave, basically, right? And so you have some issues there that do come up. Like, that is something right there that I think works really well, and it creates a lot of drama for the season. So you need something like that where it's like Rick and Daryl aren't just going to be on the same side immediately, or like maybe they are, but like just things change because the characters are different, kind of thing, right? Like, there needs to be something there, I think, for the story to really connect with everyone, where it's like, oh, this is actually kind of exciting. And it also makes a lot of sense because you can see how both characters have changed over the years. I think that's the big thing with them reuniting, is like the characters have changed so much over the years that they are different people in that sense, right? And so it's interesting because personally for me, I always thought that when Rick and Daryl reunited, that it was just going to be literally an ending scene. But, you know, at this point, you kind of have to do a story with the characters now. I feel like, you know, like the way I was sort of seeing everything playing out back in the day anyways, when Rick first left the show, was I thought that, you know, the Rick movies were going to happen and all that, and then Daryl would be in like the third movie or whatever, and then maybe they would do like a final season of The Walking Dead with all the characters together kind of thing. Like, I just kind of pictured it more like that instead of, you know, kind of how it's been playing out. And I think at this point now, like, you can't just have the Daryl Dixon show end with, you know, Rick just being there or whatever. Like, maybe you have an ending like that, but I think that you still need to tell a story there, because otherwise people are going to be very upset about that, right? Because you can't just do like, you know, the ending with Judith and RJ there where Rick, you know, reunited with his family and it was all, you know, it was emotional, but it was literally only like a couple minute scene. And it was just like, again, I think I would still say it was underwhelming. And, you know, the video I did the other day where I was talking about this, I saw a lot of comments agreeing with me. So I think that is the thing. Like, I think for Rick and Daryl to reunite, you want to do a similar story like you did with Rick and Michonne, right? Where it was just like this big story throughout the entire season. You had the characters actually interacting a lot, and there was a whole story there. And I think the one thing that I can say, you know, with confidence, obviously I don't know for sure, but I do think whatever the show is going to be, if it's 1 seasons, 2, 3, 4, I don't think it's going to be any more than that. It's definitely going to be more than 6 episodes, because it does seem like AMC is starting to give us more episodes now. Like, season 3 is going to be 7 episodes. Personally, because they were talking about 6 episodes before, I really do feel like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they did some stuff with editing and everything to somehow get an extra episode out, which I think is honestly totally fine because there's so much that they film all the time. Like there's hours and hours and hours of footage, right? They just edit it down to like 40, 50 minutes, but you can literally have like, I mean, that's the craziest thing. Like you look at a lot of the deleted scenes and stuff like that for the show, it's kind of insane to me that they didn't add any of that, right? But yeah, so I do think that we are definitely going to be getting more episodes for sure. Most likely 8 episodes, but it could be 10 episodes as well, right? So somewhere in that range, which I think is really incredible. I think people want more episodes per season now. Like I've seen a lot of complaints online about just like, 6 episodes doesn't work for just shows in general now. And you see a lot of TV shows now being like 10 episodes. And so I hope AMC gets to that point again. Like 10 episodes per season, I think is something that like, because people wait so long for these shows to come out that like you want to spend time with the characters, right? Like you want to do that. And that was one of the things that made The Walking Dead really great was like when a new season was on, it was 16 episodes. And yes, there was a break, but it still felt like the show was there. Like it was this whole season. And then you had like the summer off, right? Like 6 months off or whatever it was until the season started again. Like that was amazing. That was like the best formula for a TV show. But obviously, things have changed in the last couple of years, and I think they're starting to realize that, more episodes is better. Definitely, there is like a limit. Like, I don't know if you could do 16 episodes now. Honestly, you probably could. I feel like it's going to take other TV shows to do that, though, before AMC wants to do that. Like, they want to see other shows that are very successful doing that, and then they'll be like, all right, let's do more of that, right? Anyways, getting back to what Norman Reedus was saying here in terms of, the story here, and I want to talk about specifically what he was saying about having the characters, I guess, all together and just make a show together somehow. Like he says, I'm all for it. It just has to be done in the right way, and I know Andy feels the same way. We can't just make a show and get them all together somehow. It has to fit organically. To be honest, the characters aren't the same characters as Gad. And so, yeah, it just goes into all of that there. But just talking about what he says here. First of all, he does say that, Andrew Lincoln does feel the same way. So, I mean, that's what we've heard in the past, right? Like, we've heard that Andrew Lincoln wants to come back as Rick Grimes. But the story has to be right. It's literally what Andrew Lincoln said after the Once Who Lives finale. Like, there's other characters out there that, he could reunite with and this and that, but like the story has to be right. It has to be just like this. And when he doesn't really know kind of thing. So that makes a lot of sense. Like Norman Reedus saying this here, that he's probably talked with Andrew Lincoln about the whole thing, right? Like when is this going to happen? And it just has to make sense. Like it has to work in the same way. And I mean, I'm sure they're all excited about the idea of like these characters actually reuniting and like telling a story there, but it does have to work. And that was always, I would say, my issue with the like Avengers Endgame type of reunion with all the characters was like, it's one of those things where I think with The Walking Dead, it's very, I guess, silly to sort of assume the characters are just all going to show up and like there's going to be this really amazing music playing sort of thing, like cinematic music. And it's like this really cool scene where you have them all running at zombies or something, like it's not going to be like that because The Walking Dead is way more grounded than that. It's more real life, right? And so I think that there just has to be a way that you set that up with the story. And there is a way to do that. There definitely is a way to do that. I think that that's what you work on now with all the other spinoffs like Dead City and The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon is you start to set up those spinoffs now to build to that, where the characters are going to end in a very specific way, where they'll be in places where it does set up a spinoff like that to work, because like the characters are just so grounded, like it's just not going to work in that same way where you have all the characters just like, you know what I mean? So I think you just have to do it where you have it all set up with the other spinoffs like Dead City and Daryl Dixon. Like have the story end in a way where it's satisfying for those spinoffs, but you're setting up something else. And you don't have to set it up in a way where it's like a cliffhanger for the show or anything like that. But like the characters are in places where it's like, oh, this is going to be really interesting going forward. Like, what does this mean for the characters in the future? And like, obviously they would announce the show at that time, like with all the characters reuniting. And so at that point, it's going to be like, well, if all the characters are reuniting, then like, like how does this make sense with like Daryl being here, Rick is here, this and that, and we're going to start to see how some of the characters would respond. We'll all talk about that. That's what you got to do with these spinoffs here. And that's Gimple's job, to be honest. Like, that's what he has to plan out right now is like, how do you set this up here where it makes a lot of sense for all the characters here? And so, I would say I personally do agree with Norman Reedus here. Like, it has to be done in the right way. And I do think like with The Ones Who Live, it did a really amazing job at like reconnecting Rick and Michonne. I think that that story was so great for those two characters. And as much as I don't like the CRM stuff, like ignoring that whole arc there, like literally ignoring how that ended, I think for Rick and Michonne, it was just like, it was perfect. Like I do think that for Rick and Michonne, it was like the best way you could have, had the characters reunite. Now, for the rest of The Walking Dead, I would say that The Ones Who Live never did, I guess the best job. I think that that's the one thing that when I look at that series, I'm just like, they never committed to like certain storyline, I guess details. I think that they really could have had them reunite at the Commonwealth, or just like literally details of the world, added into that story. I think they just really failed on that part because it just seemed like they didn't want to commit to anything. It was just like, well, we're going to leave it very open-ended in every way possible because the next story, we can just go anywhere we want. And I feel like that's how Gimple tells stories. And that's what's kind of frustrating about, a lot of like, like the Triple P card and like all of that stuff. Like eventually he'll get around to doing it, but it's just like, it's constant teases that don't really go anywhere. So like Major General Beale's spies, like that was mentioned in the finale or whatever of The Ones Who Live. Is that ever going to come back up again? Maybe not. Like maybe Gimple's like, you know what? That's not really that great of a story. I'm just going to leave it. Like what he should do is probably have a character in Spain be a CRM spy, like a Major General Beale spy. Like maybe he's like, yeah, I was a spy for a community called the CRM or an organization called the CRM, but I'm not hearing from them, so I'm not sure what's going on. Like that would be kind of a cool story, like something that connects everything, right? But I don't know. Gimple doesn't seem to be wanting to do any of that, so anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. I was really excited to see this comment here from Norman Reedus because a lot of the talk about this has just been like, yeah, I'm really excited to do this or that, but there hasn't been like a real comment of like, how is this going to work? It's just been like, honestly, you see a lot of the actors ask this question, like Gimple's there, and Gimple seems really excited about stuff, but like, it's more like they don't really talk about it. They're just like, yeah, that'd be really cool, this and that, but maybe. And so it's just a lot of that. And so to have Norman Reedus actually just be like, yeah, I'm all for it. It has to be done the right way. And I know Andy feels the same way. Like those comments are just, it's incredible. So yeah, I was excited to see this here, and I'm definitely really excited to see, how they build up to this. And I really do feel like that's going to be the really exciting thing here. And I don't know how AMC is going to do this here because they can make this really exciting. Like, how they announced Avengers Doomsday? Like, you don't have to do it in that way where you have the chairs and all of that. You don't have to do that at all. But imagine the moment they announce all the characters reuniting. Like, you have Rick, Michonne, like everyone, literally every character appearing in this show here. And they announced the cast list for this show. It's going to be really exciting to have everyone all together and like the excitement for what the show is going to be kind of thing. It's going to be absolutely insane. And I think that everyone's going to be so excited. Like everyone feeling kind of down about everything right now. It's going to pick back up quite a bit. I actually think it has picked up quite a bit since they announced that, this is going to be like the final season. So now people are like, well, now I can see where this is going, right? There's a lot of hope now for all the characters to actually reunite. And so it's really cool. I really can't wait to actually see that. I'm sure it is going to happen at some point. I just don't know when. But honestly, now that I know that this is going to be like the final season, like season 4, my prediction for when we're going to get this announcement is going to be either next year at Comic-Con or it's going to be after the season 4 finale. It's going to be somewhere around there. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.